Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jordan Giesige, and this is The Limiting Factor. Wars are won with logistics is a military axiom that Elon has shared on more than one occasion. That is, the ability to efficiently and rapidly organize and deploy resources is often the deciding factor not just in wars, but any large-scale competition. In the technology world, no competition is larger or more intense than the race for commercially viable artificial intelligence, and the outcome of that race will mostly be determined by whichever company can deploy the most powerful AI data center. Why? It's due to what's called the bitter lesson, which is that 70 years of AI research have shown that the only thing that matters in the long run for progress in AI is leveraging ever larger amounts of computation. And when it comes to deploying resources efficiently and rapidly at large scale, Elon Musk is a singular human being. In the span of 2.5 years, his startup xAI has gone from having zero physical infrastructure to having the largest fully coherent AI data center in the world. And as a result, xAI now has what's considered to be the best artificial intelligence model in the world. By the time I publish this video, that could change because several companies are jockeying for top position. However, even if that does occur, it will likely be short-lived. That's because with regards to building out the massive physical compute infrastructure for artificial intelligence, xAI is well positioned to out-accelerate the competition. Today, I'll lay out exactly why that is and how they can do it. Before we begin, a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, YouTube members, and Twitter subscribers, as well as Rebellionaire.com. They specialize in helping investors manage concentrated positions. Rebellionaire can help with covered calls, risk management, and creating a money master plan from your financial first principles. The formation of xAI was announced by Elon Musk in July of 2023, with the mission statement, "Understand the universe." That gives us an idea of the long-term vision, but it doesn't tell us why. Elon started xAI because he saw that other AI models were a case of garbage in, garbage out. They were exhibiting the biases of the input data and the culture of the people developing the AI models. Elon's view was that in order for AI to be aligned with humanity and not destroy us, an AI model was needed that was optimized with truth. And the way to do that was to train an AI model that draws its priors from the deepest sources of truth that humanity has, such as physics. That is, the AI should draw its conclusions not from social programming, but from first principles. For example, an AI should not find it preferable to have a nuclear apocalypse over misgendering Caitlyn Jenner, and even Caitlyn Jenner agrees. A better outcome could be achieved if the AI was curious about and wanted to, for lack of better terms, understand the universe. Humans are the most interesting and complex things in the known universe, so if the AI was curious, it would be more likely to protect us rather than destroy us. The mission statement also has a practical purpose. Highly motivated people with great minds are attracted to an ambitious mission that sparks their imagination. But they also want to build something from scratch and have as much autonomy to do that as possible, which is one of the many reasons why xAI was formed as a separate startup from Elon's other companies. On that note, why was xAI started as a private company rather than a public company? Because as Elon is aware of and has experienced, there's pressure for public companies to pursue short-term outcomes that run counter to the long-term focus that's needed to serve the best interests of humanity. Those initial key ingredients, the sci-fi-inspired mission statement, startup atmosphere, and private funding, provided the right incentives to attract high-caliber candidates, unbound their potential, and enthusiastically work grueling hours to plow through any technical obstacle. In November of 2023, 4 months after xAI was formed, their first AI model, Grok 1, was being used on X. That model was trained on around 16,000 GPUs rented from Oracle, likely NVIDIA H100s, which had been in production for almost a year at that point. However, Oracle wasn't able to keep up with the compute demands of xAI. So Elon quickly realized he'd have to bite the bullet and start building the data centers in-house, stating that, quote, "When our fate depends on being the fastest by far, we must have our hands on the steering wheel rather than being a backseat driver," end quote. As a result, 4 months after the release of Grok 1, in March 2024, over the course of a week, Elon finalized the purchase of a former Electrolux factory in Memphis to house xAI's first data center. Between May 3, 2024 and September 2, 2024, 122 days, the xAI data center team installed 100,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs for the Phase 1 build-out of a data center named Colossus 1. Then, from September 2, 2024 to December 3, 2024, 92 days, the team installed another 50,000 H100 GPUs and 50,000 H200 GPUs for the Phase 2 build-out of Colossus 1. Lastly, sometime between December of 2024 and July of 2025, 30,000 GB200 GPUs were added. As a result, Colossus 1 is a fully coherent 230,000 GPU AI data center, or supercluster. Fully coherent means the GPUs are synchronized, effectively allowing them to operate as one giant GPU. 230,000 GPUs working coherently is a massive achievement because the more GPUs that can be synchronized, the larger the workload they can handle, meaning the more powerful the AI model they can create. Prior to last year, no one had managed to get more than 30,000 GPUs running coherently, and many experts considered it the limit of what was possible. But Elon, after an undisclosed amount of time staring at the data center cabling, single-handedly worked it out. So far, I haven't heard of any other data center solving coherence at greater than 30,000 GPUs. If they have, let me know in the comments below. I assume other data centers have now worked it out, but if they haven't, it would give xAI a critical advantage in the race to 1 million or more coherent GPUs. Either way, how did the speed of the Colossus 1 data center build-out compare to a typical data center build-out? While xAI built it in 214 days, the most optimistic estimates Elon received were 18 to 24 months. So xAI was 3 to 5 times faster than the best possible estimate and an order of magnitude faster than the typical 4 years for a data center that size. How was that possible? First, Elon selected the Electrolux site in Memphis because it sidestepped the 1 or 2 years it would take to build such a large 785,000 square foot building to accommodate 230,000 GPUs. After selecting the Electrolux building, the biggest challenge xAI faced was upgrading its electricity supply. The site was only equipped with a 15 megawatt grid connection and substation, and it needed to be over 250 megawatts and fast. xAI couldn't wait the multi-year lead times to upgrade the electrical grid connection, which includes, for example, ensuring there's enough generation available from the grid and upgrading the substation at Colossus 1 with more transformers. Elon's solution to the electricity problem in the short term was to bring in nearly every available mobile generator that they could find. They brought in 35 generators in total that could supply up to 420 megawatts of power, possibly exploiting a loophole where mobile generators could be used on site for up to 364 days without a permit. That 420 megawatts of mobile generation was backed up by at least 250 megawatts of megapacks. I say at least because I've seen different counts for the number of megapacks at Colossus 1. But the specific number isn't that important because xAI can tap into as many megapacks as they need from Tesla, another Musk company. What's important is why they were installed, which is for at least 3 critical reasons. First, they provide load smoothing, which means providing a clean, undisrupted power supply. That's necessary for AI data centers because even a minor disruption in power supply can disturb the coherence of the GPUs, potentially ruining a multi-week training run that uses millions of dollars of electricity. Second, they provide a deep reserve of instantaneous power. In a coherent data center, all of the GPUs are chewing through data and moving it back and forth between memory at the same time. That can result in power demand surges of tens of megawatts multiple times per second. And even with the megapacks, it isn't an easy problem to solve. Tesla had to work with xAI to reprogram the megapacks to deal with such extreme power fluctuations. Besides reserve power capacity, the only other alternative to solving the instantaneous power problem, which many data centers use, is to code in extra operations to keep the GPU cluster at a steady state of power demand. But those extra operations are, of course, extremely wasteful and costly. Third, the megapacks protect the surrounding grid infrastructure from extreme power fluctuations, which could stress equipment and cause damage. The combination of the mobile generation and megapacks was enough to get Colossus 1 humming in a matter of weeks rather than years. And as permanent infrastructure is built, the mobile generators can be pulled off-site. For example, a 150 megawatt substation was operational at Colossus 1 by May of 2025, allowing generators to be removed. Then a second 150 megawatt substation will be installed by the fall of this year, and the rest of the mobile generators will remain in a backup role. But wait, didn't I say a moment ago that there was a multi-year lead time for an upgraded grid connection, which includes generation and substation upgrades? Yes, but clearly Elon is finding ways around that. First, as for the transformers in the substation, which step the voltage of the electricity down so it's at the right voltage for the data center, Elon predicted there would be a transformer shortage 2 years ago and has been stockpiling them. For example, at Giga Austin, there's about 1 gigawatt of transformers sitting idle. I'm not sure if those are all for Tesla's AI data centers or also for xAI, but it's a gargantuan stockpile, and there might be stockpiles elsewhere. Second, as for grid generation, the Colossus 1 grid connection is through Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, which purchases its electricity from the TVA, or Tennessee Valley Authority. The TVA has about 4.5 gigawatts of generation headroom that could be tapped into if they allow Flex Connect agreements. What do I mean by Flex Connect? Power grids are designed for the highest power usage days of the year, but that means most of the year the grid is underutilized. In the case of the U.S. grid, for example, the utilization rate is only about 50%. A Flex Connect agreement means that a company is willing to curtail or throttle back its power usage during the peaks, so additional generation doesn't have to be built, and therefore allows the company to connect to the grid immediately. The Tesla Megapacks at Colossus 1 may have presented that option to xAI because they store about 2 hours of energy to ride through potential curtailment periods. If xAI did enter a Flex Connect agreement in Memphis, it would have accelerated the upgrade of their grid connection. It all depends on how much generation capacity was available or becoming available from the TVA for Colossus to use, and whether Memphis Light, Gas, and Water offers Flex Connect. On that note, as S.E. Robinson has reported, catty-corner to Colossus 1, xAI will soon start construction of a 522-acre solar array. I estimate that solar array will be around 100 megawatts of solar output. I'm not sure if that power will be wired to the local grid or to a substation at Colossus 1, but it will certainly help lower the CO2 emissions of the facility and help reduce the impact on the local grid. That's important because if local electricity prices start rising, xAI would encounter more resistance for future data centers. Moving along, the rapid and massive infrastructure build-out at Colossus 1 backs up my claim from the beginning of the video that xAI is well positioned to out-accelerate the competition in terms of building data centers, and will therefore dominate the AI race. However, the counterargument would be that several tech companies have announced plans for much larger data centers than Colossus 1, such as Anthropic's Project Rainier with Amazon, OpenAI's Stargate, and Meta's Prometheus. By the end of 2026, those data centers will have several times more GPUs than Colossus 1, and 3 to 4 times more power. The industry analysis on screen was cited by Mark Zuckerberg, and he used it to claim that Meta will take the crown for the largest AI data center by the end of next year. The problem is that the analysis excluded xAI. Let's take a look and drive home the argument that xAI is out-accelerating the competition. Elon stated that Colossus 2 will be a 1 million GPU supercluster. It's located at a second site, also in Memphis, that's about a 20-minute drive from Colossus 1, and already named on Google Maps. At the Colossus 2 site, the pre-existing warehouse building is 1 million square feet, 30% larger than the 785,000 square feet of Colossus 1. But not only does the Colossus 2 building have a larger footprint, it's on average taller, with 40 feet of clear internal height, which is easily enough to turn it into a 3-story building. That's as opposed to the Colossus 1 building, which appears to vary between about 1 and 3 stories tall, depending on which part of the building it is. Lastly, it's worth noting the site works and leveling that are happening just adjacent to Colossus 2. With all that in mind, let's say that the existing Colossus 2 building could go from 1 million square feet to 3 million square feet by filling the high-ceilinged warehouse with 2 more floors. If there's room for 2 more buildings of 3 stories each on the adjacent land, that would provide a total of 9 million square feet. Elon's confirmed that Colossus 2 will use NVIDIA GB200 and GB300 GPUs. How much space will those need? OpenAI expects their GB200s at Stargate to fill 1 million square feet for each 100,000 GB200 GPUs. So if xAI ends up with 9 million square feet at Colossus 2 spread out across 3 buildings, based on OpenAI's math, that would be enough for a total of 900,000 GPUs. But I don't think it would be far-fetched for xAI to squeeze in a little over 10% more GPUs, for 1 million GPUs in total. That would mean roughly 330,000 GPUs per building and 110,000 GPUs per floor. To be clear, this hasn't been confirmed or even rumored. It's a guess based on what we know about the Colossus 2 site and current buildings, the amount of space that OpenAI is using for GB200s, and the fact that Elon has said that Phase 1 of Colossus 2 would be 110,000 GB200s, which would take up 1 floor of 1 building if the buildings are 3 million square feet. With all that said, my gut instinct is that it would take much less than 9 million square feet to fit 1 million GPUs. It's not clear to me why OpenAI is requiring so much floor space for their GPUs. If xAI was able to fit 230,000 H-series GPUs in 785,000 square feet for Colossus 1, 1 million GB series GPUs could potentially fit in 3.4 million square feet, or 1 building, instead of 10 million square feet in 3 buildings. There are reasons why the GB series GPUs could take up more space or less space than the H100s, but that could be its own video. The key point is that xAI has plenty of space at the Colossus 2 site to accommodate 1 million GPUs, and we'll soon have an answer as to how much space those GPUs need, because the build-out there is well underway. That brings us to the timeline for the build-out of Colossus 2. Let's take a look. At the Grok 4 unveiling in early July, Elon confirmed that xAI expected to be training their next AI model with over 100,000 GB200s in 3 to 4 weeks, referring to the 110,000 GB200s I mentioned a moment ago at Colossus 2. 3 to 4 weeks would have been late July or early August. As a side note, on paper, the GB200s are 4.4 times faster than H100s when it comes to training AI models. As we've seen in the past, the performance likely isn't that good in terms of real-world performance. However, the 110,000 GB200s used in Phase 1 of Colossus 2 should still be about as powerful for training as the 230,000 GPU cluster used in Colossus 1. And that's just the start. What about the other 890,000 GPUs needed to hit the 1 million GPUs promised for Colossus 2? 2 weeks after Elon announced that Colossus 2 would have 110,000 GPUs in 3 to 4 weeks, he posted on X saying that in 3 more weeks, the first batch of 550,000 GPUs would start going online. There are 2 possible interpretations here. He could be saying that all 550,000 GPUs will start going online in mid-August. But in my view, that's unlikely. And my interpretation is that when he says they'll start going online, he's referring to the 110,000 GB200s he mentioned only a couple of weeks earlier. And there was just a 1-week delay from his earlier prediction, which would be par for the course with Elon, ever the optimist. Although it's extremely promising that xAI has a batch of 550,000 GPUs lined up from NVIDIA, those GPUs are going to require a huge amount of power and cooling. And, of course, they'll need to be installed and wired in. That doesn't happen overnight. Let's take a look at some further context to get a better feel for the potential timeline for Colossus 2. In an interview with David Faber in May, Elon said that xAI expects to have a Gigawatt-class data center online within 6 to 9 months. He may have meant he expects all 1 million GPUs to be installed in 6 to 9 months, and if that's the case, it would be mind-blowing because that would be 2 to 3 gigawatts of compute. But that wasn't explicitly stated, so let's play it conservative. How many GPUs could 1 gigawatt of power supply? The first phase of OpenAI's Stargate project is expected to use 400,000 GB200 GPUs and will need 1.2 gigawatts of power. 400,000 divided by 1.2 gigawatts is about 330,000 GPUs for 1 gigawatt of compute. As luck would have it, that again aligns with my guess for the potential layout of Colossus 2. Where, using OpenAI's numbers, I estimated each building or expansion could hold 330,000 GB200 GPUs. If that's the case, each building would need about 1 gigawatt of power for the compute. Again, a handy coincidence. So, in my view, 330,000 GPUs is the minimum number of GPUs we can expect to be installed at Colossus 2 by January. But there's a strong potential it could be even more, the 550,000 GPUs Elon mentioned on X. If that's the case, the Colossus 2 site would require around 1.7 gigawatts of power by January, and potentially another building if more than 3 million square feet was required. But, as I said earlier, that's possible given the second building that was potentially ready to begin construction about 4 months ago when the photo on screen was taken. And even before xAI bought the site, there were plans to more than double the building capacity on the property. Again, conveniently, the 550,000 GPU number is a multiple of 110,000, which fits with the analysis I did earlier and would be 5 floors at 1 million square feet per floor. Either way, if Elon and xAI are able to install 330,000 GPUs by January and can maintain that pace into next year, they could have 1 million GPUs fully installed for Colossus 2 by mid to late 2026, making it a 3 gigawatt AI supercluster. That would easily trounce the roughly 1 gigawatt superclusters planned by OpenAI and Meta for next year. If that happens, it would be demoralizing. OpenAI's Stargate and Meta's Prometheus have been hyped and received lavish media attention, including a press conference at the White House. If xAI can strike like a bolt from the blue and deliver a supercluster 2 to 3 times as large as them in 2026 with Colossus 2, it would give xAI extreme dominance that attracts a flood of capital and talent. Because if you don't have 1 million coherent GPUs, do you even AI, bro? But we're getting ahead of ourselves. All of this depends on whether Elon can install or source up to 3 gigawatts of electricity generation for Colossus 2. If he can, let's take a closer look at how. First, the ingredients. As substations are built out at Colossus 1, it will free up mobile generators. Half have already been freed up, and the other half are remaining on site for backup power. That will free up at least 210 megawatts of mobile generation, and potentially 420 megawatts if the backup generators are allowed to be temporarily moved off-site from Colossus 1. Second, xAI is having a full-scale gas power plant shipped in from overseas. Depending on whether it's a single-cycle gas turbine or combined-cycle gas turbine generator, it would likely be somewhere between 200 and 700 megawatts. And there's no reason to believe that xAI has just one gas power plant on order. As S.E. Robinson reported on X, xAI already has land for that gas generation just south of Colossus 2, which was previously the site of a 640 megawatt Duke Energy natural gas plant. So much of the infrastructure should already be in place to build xAI's power plant, and there's room for expansion. Third, xAI can once again utilize Tesla's megapacks to build reserve power. Fourth, as for substations, we don't know anything about the grid connection for the Colossus 2 site yet, but there's a good chance that they're already working on the expansion and that Elon already has the transformers lined up. With those ingredients, xAI can implement a series of rolling upgrades for Colossus 2. It might look something like this. Step 1, install the first 110,000 GPUs at Colossus 2 and power them with mobile generators and megapacks. Meanwhile, build out the permanent power generation and substations. Step 2, start installing 2 more sets of 110,000 GPUs to complete the first building by January 2026. By the time that building is filled out, more power should be available from either the power plant or substation expansions started in Step 1. Step 3, after this, it's wash, rinse, and repeat. The mobile generators and megapacks are the shock troops for each expansion, and the substation upgrades and the imported power plant or power plants can bring up the rear. How fast could they scale? From their first to their second 100,000 GPUs at Colossus 1, xAI reduced the deployment time by 30 days, from 122 to 92 days. That's a steep learning curve, and it's reasonable to assume that with their third cluster at Colossus 2 of 110,000 GPUs, they can get that to 69 days. Then the fourth cluster of 110,000 GPUs might be done in 52 days, and so on up to 1 million GPUs. If the first 110,000 GPUs are now installed at Colossus 2, and the goal was to install the remaining 890,000 GPUs within a year from now. That would require an average installation time of 46 days per 110,000 GPUs. It would be a tough grind, but doable. In summary, if Elon can deliver 1 gigawatt of compute for xAI by the end of the year, and 1 million GPUs at 3 gigawatts by the end of next year, xAI will leave its competitors in the dust in terms of compute, and therefore dominate in terms of the intelligence of its AI models due to the bitter lesson. That's impressive given that Meta and OpenAI had a 10 and 8-year head start, respectively. The wild card here is Google, which is also working on large AI data centers, but without the headline-catching code names that xAI, OpenAI, and Meta are using. Google plans to have 1 gigawatt of compute in each Iowa and Ohio by the end of 2025 and into 2026. However, that gigawatt-scale compute doesn't appear to be coherent because it's spread out over several campuses that are up to an hour drive from each other. So I don't think it's reasonable to consider those regional groupings of 1 gigawatt as 1 gigawatt superclusters. If I'm incorrect here, let me know in the comments below. Getting back on topic, all else being equal, the future of AI belongs to the company with the best logistics, the company that can lay down complex physical infrastructure the fastest and most efficiently. If I were to rank on that factor alone, it looks like xAI is in the best position, because they went from having no AI supercluster to the largest AI supercluster in the world within 9 months. Experience does matter, and I'm not discounting Amazon, Google, Meta, and OpenAI, which is partnering with companies like Oracle, but none of those companies are moving at the speed that xAI is. That's because none of them have a team that's inspired and highly motivated to build an AI that understands the universe, and none of them have a CEO like Elon Musk with so much experience solving problems on the front line of the most logistically difficult industry on the planet, the auto industry. Either way, if xAI can complete the first 1 gigawatt AI data center in the next 5 months, that will make them the dominant player in the AI race for at least the next year. And the story will only get more interesting from there as the scale moves from gigawatt to terawatt scale, which will require a complete rethink of how AI data centers are powered. I have ideas on that, and I'll share them in the next video of this series. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel by using the links in the description. Also, consider following me on X. I often use X as a testbed for sharing ideas, and X subscribers like my Patreon supporters generally get access to my videos a week early. On that note, a special thanks to my YouTube members, X subscribers, and all the other patrons listed in the credits. I appreciate all of your support, and thanks for tuning in.